Yeah.
So which one will you choose?
I'm sorry?
So
Which one I would choose? Of course, Barabbas. You know, if all of a sudden Socrates was to come back to life and just walk into this room, what, you think I'd like going and sitting over there and listening to this old man talk, making me feel bad for all the degrees I have, that they're worthless, that I speak well but don't really act on anything that they say? He makes me feel bad. So it's good that he's not here. I can just continue with my talk, feeling good about myself. Barabbas is the way. Yeah.
Just trying to like actively listen. I don't remember the question.
Okay. Yeah.
Are there any female philosophers, or were they just white girls or something? I mean, I just can't imagine there was never.
There have been some, but history and men have not been kind to them. I don't know very many of them myself.
I'll research that. I've gotten a few things.
Yeah. But it's not really important whether it's a man or a woman. And the reason is, if you look at just the word philosophy, it comes from two words, philo and sophia. Philo is love, and sophia is wisdom. Love is layered with meaning and experiences. It ranges from something physical to emotional to intellectual to spiritual. And it's very difficult to kind of transition from one to another. And you need a lot of work. You need a lot of patience. You need a really, really good teacher. You need to have a great capacity to be able to move from one to another. The other problem with wisdom is that, unfortunately, you can't go to the library and just read books and come out 10 years and say, I'm wise. Wisdom is not information. Wisdom is not data. Wisdom does not come with having a PhD or 20 of them. Wisdom does not come by you sitting with Jesus Christ and having a chit-chat with him. It's a mystery. So what you have, whether it's a man or a woman, is if you want to be a philosopher, if you want to be a thinker in the right way, first, someone needs to teach you how to love. Then someone needs to get rid of all the information you have so you can be open enough so that wisdom can come to you. Sophia is a goddess. It's very much like the goddess you'll find in the Hindu tradition whose name is Vak. V-A-C. And she waits and waits and waits and waits until someone is mature enough to receive her. But the other thing you need to understand about wisdom and love is that one is feminine, the other is masculine. Love is always feminine. Wisdom is always masculine. So if you're a woman and you're in love the right way, you are feminine. If wisdom is given to you, you become masculine. Socrates is feminine, but because he's wise, he becomes masculine.
So you need both.
You need both, yeah. Yeah. But we'll talk about all of that next semester. Anyone else? Eric?
I'll go first with because I'm ready.
Eric?
Oh, I don't have it fully, you know.
Eric?
I don't have it fully, okay. Let's say you're in your dead bed, right?
I'm sorry?
Let's just say in a scenario, let's create a scenario. You're in your dead bed,
I am on my deathbed.
right? Let's say you're dying right now.
I'm dying right now.
You realize that you didn't live the life that you wanted to.
Right.
And let's say you die, and then you reincarnate or whatever, and you are placed in a 22-year-old body, right? And you have those memories of that person. What actions would you take to erase those memories, or how would you prepare yourself to erase those memories and just build the life that you wanted?
Let me see if I understand your question. I die. But before I die, I look at my life and I realize it's been crappy. I die. I come back to life. Now I'm 22. I remember my past. And I say, oh, well.
No, your past. No, your past. The past of the person of your body. So you just,
Yeah, my past.
no, you're in somebody else's body, no your body. What I'm trying to say is just, what I'm trying to ask you is, what actions or what
Nothing.
things would you do?
I have some difficulties with your question. First, whenever you get old in anything, you have no choice but to have regrets. That's the first thing. A regret is a burden that you have to carry. Whether or not you can fix things afterwards, I don't really know. What I do know is this: because we are pleasure-seeking animals, because we don't know how to use pain the right way, even if you remember some things and you would want to change them, you will try your best to forget. Again, we don't enjoy change. You have lived the way you have lived for the past 25 years. You may not like it. Look, people are in awful relationships all the time. They don't walk away. You're just in a crappy relationship with yourself. You're not going to walk away. Knowing something is different than being able to change things. So remember, there are two things. You know something, and you assume that just because you know you can change. Not possible. Let's just say you live in a bad neighborhood, and every time your kids walk out, there are drugs, there are prostitutes, violence everywhere. You know all the stuff to be bad for your kids. But change it. Go to Montclair. Well, what the hell do you need? You need money. Do you have it? No. So what are you left with? Well, you just have no choice but to see your kids suffer. So just because you know something, it doesn't mean anything. It just means you know it. You need the resources to change. And resources are like saving money. We'll talk about that later. Anyone else? Okay. So, no one? Joaquin, we are never going to get to the religious traditions. We are, I'm just joking. This is just like warming up. Are you leaving? Diamond?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be back again.
Of course. Yes.
Have you surrendered yourself while being consumed by negative emotion?
You know, I've been married 8 times. I'm just kidding.
What was the question?
He likes me.
Have
He
you
want-
surrendered yourself while being consumed by negative emotion?
Okay. There are a couple of things. Can I use the board? Do you guys mind? I don't have a good handwriting. It may make you vomit. A lot of the questions that people usually ask, if they pay attention to the question itself, the answer is right there. But let's just unpack your question and then somehow try to figure out what the answer is, if there are any. So your question is, let's say I have a lot of negative emotions, i.e. trauma inside me. Is there a way that I can come to a place where I can simply accept them? Okay. Because as long as you don't accept, you are in a wrestling match. You have conflict. Conflict is opposites. One day you're good, 5 days you're bad. You want the one good day to be repeated, but it won't, so you feel even more crappy. And then you want to will yourself to change, but you can't because you lack the resources. Now you feel even more crappy. And then your parents have been kind to you, you have good friends, you want to be nice to them, but because you're so crappy, you crap on them. And then you feel bad for having crapped on them. The first thing you need to understand is that emotions, they don't come about accidentally. It takes a long time for something to become an emotion. I'll give you an example. This is you. Okay? Eyes, ears. Through your eyes and your ears, you create a relationship with me. You look at me, and then you hear me. What these two powerful senses do is that they create inside you a certain feeling or a set of feelings. That's what all senses do. They are generators of feelings. They bring them to life. Okay? Now, feeling can be negative, it could be positive. Let's say some of you in this class, you look at my face and you say, yuck. He reminds me of Osama bin Laden. Or you hear my voice and you say, yuck. I don't like the way he speaks. Now, if your feeling is negative, what you will do is you'll say, as Eric probably will, I don't like the way he looks, and I don't like the way he talks. He's uninteresting. I signed up for this class, but he's giving me this other stuff. I don't like it. Okay. Now, whenever something is negative, what you have is the opposite of pleasure, which is pain. And this is only the second night. You and I don't have much of a history. So what you'll do, you'll go home, you'll turn on your laptop, and you'll drop the class. Okay? And what happens is, let's say next semester you're about to take some classes, you look at the schedule, and my name appears. And the feeling that had faded comes to the surface. Oh yeah, I remember that bozo. Just don't like him. So remember, whenever something is negative, you try to walk away, run away from it. Now, if on the other hand you look at me and you say, man, I wish I was as good looking as he is. Or if I could speak the way he does. What you're saying is you have a positive feeling. And whenever something is positive, you want, because it gives you pleasure, you want the pleasure to be repeated. That's the first thing you need to understand about what it means to be a human being. We don't like pain, but we enjoy pleasure. Now, you may get high, and you may have pleasure by getting high. But one of the things you need to understand, all human experiences live in time. Okay? Now, it may be that right now at the age of 18, you get high and you get a lot of pleasure from the experience. But then you're 35. You've been getting high on a daily basis. You are an addict. You're in the habit of getting high twice or 3 times a day. Now you're married. Now your wife tells you you have a son. Now the son comes out. You don't want your son to see you smoke. Because once in a while you have this whisper, sometimes turns into a roar. Joaquin, stop smoking. But just because you want to change, it doesn't mean you can. You just want to. Okay? Now, if you want to run away from a pain or you want to run towards something that has given you pleasure, this is the birth of desire. You desire to be in the presence of pain no more, or you desire for this pleasure to continue. Okay. Now, remember, desire by itself is not enough. If this seed called desire, it's nourished, in other words, if you keep coming to this class, if you keep looking at me, if you keep hearing me, and if all of that gives you pleasure, you say to yourself, what exactly did Amir Sabzevari go to school for? He went and did philosophy. And what you say, I want to be like Amir Sabzevari. This particular want is, I want a Tesla. I want a Jaguar. I want to be like Snoop Dogg. I want to be like Miley Cyrus. It's a want. It's just a more intense way of desiring something. Okay. Now, if you keep nourishing the want, something very, very interesting happens. It turns into a need. Now, what you have is Joaquin having an emotional relationship with the need, with what you need. You need to go to school to study philosophy, to be in front of the classroom and speak the way I do. You need that. And the moment you have a need, your identity revolves around it. It gives you meaning, relevance, significance. Add to it. If you want to be like me, what you have is a goal that's waiting for you. The finish line, 15 years from now. From a simple feeling, now you have an emotion called a need. Now, the thing you need to understand is this. From here to here, it's a thing called history. History is created through time. History creates stories. Now, when you go home from this class, you'll call your friends and you'll talk about this class. You keep nourishing the desire. You go home, your dad says, how was class? You talk about the class for 5 hours. And all of a sudden, your want to know these ideas better increases. And then by the time you get to the place of need, you realize that you're very, very, very focused. Your dad says, do business. You say, nah. You may even get rid of music. You may get rid of your friends. Now, this means codependency. You have a goal because of me. You have a need because of me. I am the creator of this new Joaquin. Now, let's just say you're talking about negative emotion now. The problem, very much like this. You keep playing with the stuff in your head. And as you keep playing, or maybe the event or experience repeats itself because that's your physical environment. Let's just say your father abuses you in some shape or form. Okay? And you don't have money, you don't have resources to walk away, so you're home. So every single night you have this negative emotion. It keeps repeated from the age 5 all the way to about 15. That's 10 years of history, man. Your identity revolves around pain, about having a father who's not there. Now, what usually happens, especially in this culture, because this is a how-to culture. A how-to culture means, like you go to IKEA, you see a table, and you take notes. I-95. So you go to the basement, you go to aisle I, section 95, you grab a box, you take it home, and you put the stuff together. And now you have a bookcase. Now, when you look at today's culture, you have a negative emotion, there is a how-to for it. Your relationship is bad, there's a how-to for it. You're a failure, there's a how-to for it. And the truth is, there are no how-tos. There are no how-tos to becoming a Malcolm X. There are no how-tos to become a Magnus Carlsen. There are no how-tos to become a George Floyd Mayweather. No one knows. I mean, if you go back in our history, Jesus could not transform his disciples fully. They all betrayed him. Muhammad couldn't transform the Arabs. They fought him. Lao Tzu wasn't able to make his people wise. He left. Good teachers always are met with disappointment. There are no how-tos. Now, what you have in the 21st century is this illusion that there is a way you can fix things. There are no ways. No one knows. You try. It's a shot in the dark. Now, it's very difficult to accept anything negative about ourselves. Let me perhaps give it to you in this particular way. Since Eric was talking about my death, thank you, by the way, Eric. For those of you who have difficult lives, for those of you who've gone through perhaps breakups, for those of you who just don't like yourselves, so what you have then is this. If there is something about yourself you just don't like, if you're broken, if you have a shattered past, you have suffered a loss. Losing anything is hard, especially if you feel as if it gave you meaning. My father is 90 years old. I washed cars with this man, shoulder to shoulder, for about 25 years. I still go to the car wash. Every weekend, every other weekend, I go home into Roseville. We all have food together. 20 people. There is a huge history, lots of stories. So if he passes, I am going to suffer a loss. Whenever you lose something, and it's important to you, you begin to have this thing called grief. Grief, for the most part, is negative. It's painful. So how do you come to accept it? Imagine for a moment that I assume myself to be healthy. I'm walking, I'm quacking, I'm not feeling any pain anywhere in my body. I get a call from my doctor, your annual physical is approaching. Come by, let me touch you. I say, okay. So I go to the doctor, he touches me here, touches me there. He says, oh, what's this lump? I don't know. Let's do an MRI, X-ray. Let's get you tested. So I get tested. Now remember, I'm young, I feel healthy. You know what that means, right? I'm planning my future. I want to buy a car, I want to go jogging, I want to go to New York. Maybe get myself another wife. Have some tiramisu. Write a book. Stalk people. And then he says, yeah, your results came back. You got cancer. Cancer. In my mind, cancer equals death. I say, nah, not possible. I bought tickets for New York in 6 months. I can't have cancer. Not now, at least. Nope, got cancer. So the first thing I do, I say, no, I deny it. I'm not ready to accept. I deny it. So whenever you see something about yourself you don't like, you're not going to accept it. Are you kidding? That's a loss of identity, loss of meaning, loss of value. So I keep denying and denying and denying. And I say, you know what? I'm going to get a second opinion. So I go to a different hospital, different doctor, much cuter. And then the results come back again. Yeah, you got cancer. Stage 8. I thought there were only like 5. No, it's stage 8. It's really, really serious for you. Nah, deny it. You know, I get a third opinion. The result is the same. I've come to realize I can no longer deny. 4, 5, 6 different doctors have told me I have cancer. Now I'm pissed. Why me? I want to have some tiramisu. I was looking to get divorced and get a new wife, to have a few more kids, like Al Pacino, 83. Robert De Niro, 79. 78. And now I am angry. I'm not yet ready to accept the fact that I have cancer and it's going to kill me. I had to first deal with denying. I can no longer deny. Now I'm angry. And the thing is, I'm not quite sure at what stage and how long it's going to take me to overcome denial. Everybody has a different timetable. Now I am pissed. Now, you know what happens when you're angry? You're no longer rational. You're no longer composed. You no longer have power to control anything about yourself or your life. Everything's up in the air. It's a big question mark. You look at your kids and you realize, well, you're not going to see them graduate. That pisses you off some more. You're going to look at your wife and you say, when I die, is she going to be in bed with someone? That pisses you off some more. I did all the stuff. Is this the way I'm going to leave? Go out? Teaching at Laney College? Yuck. I haven't done anything significant with my life. I'm pissed. And it may be 2 years, it may be 5 years, it may be 5 days, 5 minutes. I'm not quite sure how long I'm going to be in this anger stage, but I am angry. And those of you in this class who loved someone and one day they send you a letter saying, I no longer want to be around you. First you say, nah, it's probably a mistake, a typo. Then you call them and say, Joe, did you really mean that you don't want to be with me? Yeah, you suck. I have found someone cuter, younger, who has more depth. So you deny that this is happening to you. And then when he keeps telling you he no longer wants to be with you, now you are pissed. We talk about justice, fairness. Where is God? Compassion, forgiveness, nothing. There comes a point where you say, okay, I'm done denying. I am done with being angry. Now you begin to bargain. And bargain means the following. You look at the doctor and you say, if I change my diet, will I live an extra 5 years? If I no longer scream at my wife, will that help me live an extra 10 years? Or you call Joe and you say, Joe, I know you said I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that. What if I change my face? What if I read more books? What if I go to church with you? Will you stay with me? You bargain. You try to buy time by sacrificing something. You don't really want to do it, but you just don't want to leave. You bargain. But Joe is adamant. He just doesn't want to be around you. You just come to realize there are no pills that can cure your disease. You're just going to die, man. And when you realize that you have no power to do anything, man, pain puts you in this profoundly lonely place. 8 billion people on this planet. There is no one you can talk to. You should look at that painting by the Norwegian painter Edvard Munch called The Scream. People are having a good time, you know. You would hope that if you're walking the streets and you're screaming, someone will stop and say, hey, what's going on? No one pays you attention. هر کسی از زن خود شد یار من و از درون من نجست اسرار من. Everybody assumes that they understand you, they know what you're going through, but no one can. If you're going through a breakup and you've gone through the denial stage, you're angry, you've gone through that, and you try to talk to your companion or ex to make him or her come back, to no avail, you have no friends. You know, and every time they try to give you a pep talk, you get even more pissed. And so you get really, really depressed. Depressed because there isn't anything you can do. This culture tells you you're an individual, independent, autonomous. Focus. You can do anything. It's a crappy culture to live in. It's filled with one mirage after another. It tells you all sorts of things that are just not true. And so you will never get to a place where you get to accept how crappy things are really. Now, something happens when you get really, 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 really depressed. And remember, no one knows how long people stay at these different stages. Whenever you suffer a loss, now remember, you're not going to be in a grieving mode if you're not in a relationship with something. In other words, if, for example, you come to class on Monday and Brad Pitt, okay, was the instructor for this class, you're not going to say, oh, I'm going to go cry because Amir Sabzvar is no longer here. You and I have known each other for only 2 days. We don't have much of a history. You may shed a single drop of tear, but you're not going to be in this grieving mode that's intense, that leads to paralysis. So remember, you will only grieve about things that you are in a relationship with. Tons of people die on a daily basis. You cry? No. You don't know them. Don't care for them. And why should you? Now, there comes a point where you have denied enough, you've been angry enough, you've bargained enough, and you've been depressed enough. All of a sudden, I don't know how it happens. No one knows. I don't think anyone knows. And anyone who tells you that they know, they're lying to you. One day morning, you wake up and you say, it's okay. I'm just going to die. The Greeks have this particular goddess whose name is Chaos. As you know, chaos is just a horrific place to be. It's like being in the middle of an ocean and there's a storm and you're just on a tiny little raft. When there is chaos, you have zero power. Zero power, lots of questions. Zero power in darkness. Zero power, poverty. Zero power, isolation. Alienation. You're just completely alone. So chaos has two kids. One is called confusion. The other is called darkness. For those of you who want to know how these two kids work, it's Very simple. Go home tonight. Do not turn on the lights. Just walk through your space in complete darkness. And you know what's going to happen. You're going to bang your head to this wall and bang your knee to that wall. And you're going to suffer a good amount of pain. And then you want to overcome the pain, but you had promised yourself to leave the power off. And pain leads to frustration. Frustration, you want to overcome because it's a negative emotion. Frustration leads to anxiety. You know why? Anxiety has to do with the future. When the future is unknown, but you've had tiny tastes, in darkness you will bruise yourself. And now you're anxious about taking a step forward. And now you're more anxious, more frustrated, more angry. Now, what happens in darkness is that you get really, really, really confused. Something really interesting will happen if you're able to survive a good amount of darkness that comes with a good amount of anxiety, frustration, dread, and confusion. Eventually, darkness and confusion have sex together. Okay? Their product is a child named Light. Any one of you in this class who have suffered a good amount of pain that has forced you into thinking, reflecting, let's just say relationships, romantic kinds. When you have recovered from it, you are wiser for it. Pain, confusion, darkness, loneliness has pushed you to think. Which means that next time when you're ready to go out on a date, you will ask different kinds of questions with different sets of intensities. But that depends if you have survived darkness and confusion. Because if you haven't, what happens is that if you haven't survived and you haven't fixed your issues, now what you have is trauma inside you. And trauma, see, sometimes something can live in your body, sometimes things can live in your emotions, sometimes things can live in your head. But when it goes into your soul, when it goes into your psyche, it has found a beautiful home and it's not going to leave. Remember, trauma, like any emotion, it is a living organism. And go back to our good friend Charles Darwin. Anything that is living, that is alive, will do whatever it can to continue its existence. You want to change, but there is also trauma. These are two different organisms. Trauma has had 10 years of life inside you. The desire to change is 2 weeks old. Who do you think is going to win? Trauma. Now, I say all of this for the following reason. For those of you, again, who are going through difficult times, and eventually all of us have no choice but to go through difficult times. If you're not going through a difficult time, consider this to be your vacation. What will happen is there will come a point, at what stage I don't really know, that you will accept. And acceptance means the following, that you have a negative emotion, okay? It's going this way to ruin your life. You're going this way, you want to fix it. There is this grinding period, two heads butting. What you have is conflict. Conflict creates even more pain. Acceptance means the following. This is the way things are going. You have tried again and again and again, and you have failed. Finally, you get to accept, my life is going this way, I can't do this on my own. I need help. Watch some of the interviews with Robin Williams or Al Pacino about what it means to be an alcoholic. And what you will learn from both of these thinkers is that you assume that once you are addicted to something, you can recover on your own. You can make changes. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe 2 years, but eventually you'll go back. And then you realize, yes, you're an individual, but you have no power over alcohol. Then you give yourself to AA. And despite being this powerful actor, you stand up with all these nobodies and you say, my name is Robin Williams and I'm an alcoholic. There are lots of things to overcome. Your name, your reputation, your status. You begin to feel helpless. So acceptance is like any other journey. It takes a while to get there. Anyone else? Now, you may think that we are talking about alcohol and drugs, about relationships. Not so. All the heroes that we'll talk about in this class, beginning with Gilgamesh, then going to Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, what you will find is that all these traditions have one single hero. You have Jesus, since most of you in this class are familiar with that name. 2,000 years ago. It's not like today. People have meaning. People have tradition. There's a foundation to build a house. There is no capitalism. People live in villages or towns of 500 people to 1,000. Everybody thinks the same. Everybody lives the same. Everybody talks the same. They all believe that there is Yahweh. They all believe that this is a place to which they've been expelled. They all believe life is tough. There is no sex before marriage. Parents don't divorce. There is no pornography. Everybody looks and smells the same way. And all of a sudden you have this kid, age 12, named Jesus. Judaism doesn't make sense to me. I want to believe, I just can't. Do you really think it's easy for a 12-year-old kid some 2,000 years ago to want to be like other kids, but can't? He has suffered a loss. He tried, he failed. And he goes on a long journey. Like anyone who's an alcoholic, you have to go on a long journey to recover. So these are these maps that we have talked about tonight, that anyone who wants to go on any journey, whether you want to bring health back to your body or to your emotions or to your intellect or to your soul, all of these different parts of you, the journey is the same. You will deny some of the things you see about yourself. Once you can no longer deny, you'll be angry for all the time you wasted, all the things you have seen but overlooked. You will try to bargain with yourself, which is you'll read a book, you'll hang out with your friends, you'll seek therapy. You will no longer watch porn, smoke, whatever the case may be, only to realize it was a good try for a few days. Then you'll come to realize how incompetent you are. Then you'll get sad and depressed, you'll feel lonely. And then like Jesus, you live in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. You go on this long quest for 18 years. And then if you're lucky, you'll understand a few things. Do you have any questions or comments before we continue? Andrew.
When you worked in hospice, the people that could submit, did you see any common traits there?
I was very young when I did hospice and child life services. Kids are much better, of course. They don't have a long history with life, and therefore they don't have much of an attachment with life. And so it's easier for them to let go. Adults have a difficult time, but what you have in common in all these near-death, individuals is that there comes a point that they just become passive to what's happening. In other words, they will no longer fight. It's a giving up, but it's a giving up that's founded or rooted in understanding.